Pledge? Yeah, I guess you are.
Yep, I guess I'm doing it.
Okay.
Good to see you. All right, it's 9 o'clock. We'll call the meeting. This is a special board meeting, and we'll call it to order. For those, Pastor Newman here was unable to attend, and we thank him for being on the phone with us, and we thank him for getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning because he's in California. So he's listening in. And if you'll please join me in a pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to remind all the board members that we'll be streaming live video in today's meeting, and please speak into the microphones. It's my pleasure to announce that we do have a new board member, and I'd like to formally introduce Wendy Hamilton. Wendy, who was appointed by Mayor Curry to replace former board member Jim Citrano. Wendy currently serves as president of Eventide Investments of Florida and is a certified financial planner with over 25 years of financial service and asset management experience. And we certainly want to welcome her to the board. We have a new board member that was appointed by Governor Scott, who is unfortunately unable to attend, and his name is James Palmer Clarkson. Mr. Clarkson was appointed by the governor, as I mentioned, to replace former board member Joe York. Mr. Clarkson is president of Bridgestone Hose Power, and we look forward to working with him at our next meeting. Move on to approval of the minutes from the March meeting. Everybody's had a chance to read them. Do I have a motion?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So moved. Any public comments, Nancy?
No, sir.
No public comments, okay. Okay, we've got a couple of real exciting things today that you're going to hear about, and we're real proud of it. So I will move on to BD 2018-4-1 Carnival Cruise Line Berthing and Terminal Use Agreement. Fred?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, members of the board. As you all know, Carnival Cruise Line has been operating here at JAXPORT since 2004. For nearly 15 years, we've been operating under our cruise business under year-to-year contracts. The agreement before you calls for an initial 3-year term, and after that 3-year term, 3 separate 2-year renewals. Assuming we exercise all options, this covers a full 9-year period. There are minimal guarantees throughout the contract protecting us, and in return, JAXPORT has committed to complete capital improvements that will improve the passenger experience. So I'll bring up Beth. She'll discuss a couple of our numbers.
Yes, and I wish every time I came up to you to report some numbers they would be this good. We have an ROI analysis in here. The payback on these capital improvements that will amount to about $1.5 million will be 3 months. The contract revenue is $5 million a year, and the ROI on that is 333%. I remind the board that capital improvements much more significant than this $1.5 million went in when this contract was first established some years ago. So we benefit from that, and improving as we're doing right now will make sure we continue this excellent contract for the port.
Okay, well, thank you. I think from having gone for the last, 20 years, from year to year, this is a real milestone for the port, and I want to thank you for your and Eric and all the team for great work on this.
Staff respectfully recommends the board to approve the berthing and terminal use agreement between JAXPORT Port Authority and Carnival Corporation, and authorize our CEO, Eric Green, to execute this agreement.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve as submitted by staff.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate
I'm
that.
still listening. All right.
Good stuff.
Okay, next is BD 2018-4-2, transfer of approximately 7 acres located along Ocean Street in Mayport, Florida, to the city of Jacksonville. And Fred,
Yes,
you're on
sir.
again.
Thank you. So in 2008, JAXPORT purchased 6.72 acres along the Mayport waterfront. Our intentions were to build a new cruise facility, a new cruise terminal. However, due to the high costs and some community concerns, JAXPORT decided to keep cruise where she is currently at Dames Point. And as you know from our previous item, it was a sound decision. In the past, after that decision was made, the city of Jacksonville and JAXPORT jointly promoted the Mayport property for commercial development. To date, there has been no development interest. However, there is interest in increasing the waterfront access citywide, as you guys all know. At this time, JAXPORT has no further business for the Mayport property. However, would like to see the property be a part of the city's waterfront initiatives. It would be our intentions to share future net revenues derived from either a sale or a commercial development of the property. Staff respectfully recommends the board to approve the transfer of the Mayport property to the city of Jacksonville and authorize our CEO, Eric Green, to execute all documents necessary to convey the property without any additional board action.
Thank you, Fred. You know, this property has been sitting there for quite a while, and I'm personally glad that we're going to let the citizens of Atlantic Beach and the Mayport Fishing Village have this property and develop it for whatever they think their highest and best use is. I think this has gone on way too long, and I'm happy that we're finally moving forward with this property.
Absolutely, sir.
So, do I have a motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? I'll ask for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion
sir.
passes. Thank you, Fred.
Thank you, board.
Okay, David Kaufman, BD 218-0403, approval of sale of some property in St. Johns County.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. As you may recall, some time ago when we were going through the harbor deepening permitting process, we were required to purchase some properties in St. Johns County to meet our mitigation requirements. The parcel that was purchased ultimately had more acreage associated with it than what we needed to meet our requirement. And so since that time, we've been trying to divest ourselves of that property so that we can then redeploy our capital assets to what we do. The remaining 1,393 acres has been in discussion with St. Johns County for acquisition, and in your package you have a draft purchase and sale agreement that was submitted to us by St. Johns County, and we recommend approval of the term sheet that's attached, which allows a little bit more additional flexibility than what their purchase and sale agreement reflects. The one item that is different in the purchase and sale agreement versus the term sheet is there were some early conversations with staff in St. Johns County about the potential need for us to finance a portion of the balance. The new purchase and sale agreement that we received more recently reflects an outright purchase of the property, but the St. Johns County Board of Commissioners won't take this up for another couple of weeks. So we want to make sure that if the commission came back with some other change, as long as it was substantially in the form of the term sheet, that we would have approval to move forward and authorize the CEO and staff to execute the agreements. available to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions? I'm going to ask for the, no? Okay. I'll ask for a vote, or a motion, please, to approve.
Move we
As
approve,
staff.
move we approve, Mr. Chairman.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I'll ask for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
And then you'll continue, Dave, with the sovereign submerged land lease.
Yes, sir. So we own property, as you know, out at Dames Point, and it intersects, I have this visual. The north end of the property intersects with Winds Creek. And Winds Creek is a tidal creek that has resulted in erosion along the shoreline of the property that we've experienced over time. Unfortunately, traffic's not coming up. In order to fix that erosion, because we're losing upland property, we've designed through our engineering group a hardening of that shoreline using riprap material. The material has to be placed at the bottom of the creek, which is owned by the state of Florida. So in order to do that, we're required to execute a submerged lands easement with the state of Florida. It's a no-fee easement, has a 50-year term, but it's a matter of course, and our policies require anytime we take an interest in real estate that we ask for board authorization to do so. So we ask for your approval to execute the submerged land lease with the state of Florida for about a half acre of property at no cost to the authority.
Okay. Any questions, anybody?
Ma'am,
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman.
yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to make note that this improvement is also within budget, so it's not a budget bust. So it's within the original budget.
Yeah, essentially, it's just some rock and riprap, right?
That's right.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman, I so move.
May I have a second? Do I have a second?
Want to do it for a second? All right.
I second.
Any further discussion?
Just kind of leave it.
Okay, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion passes. Thank you, Dave. Okay, Mike McClung will go over financials.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, board members.
Morning.
Here, 6 months to date, halfway into the year. Going to first look at revenue. We're showing revenues exceeding budget 9%. Year to date, $2.6 million. Healthy growth right out of the gate. 16% year over year. Total tonnage being up 15% year over year. So some good numbers for the first 6 months. We'll say. We would like to think that we can bank the first 6 months of revenue, certainly, and if we stay on budget for the rest of the year, we'll target around $65 million in revenues. We budgeted 62.3. That's about a 5% improvement over budget, and 65 million would be as compared to 59 million a year ago, which is about a $6 million growth, which is about 10% growth year over year, which is quite impressive. Next slide, please. We'll talk about containers and autos a little bit, as they constitute 75% of our business. Container revenue also up in dollars, 11%. Some of this is impacted favorably by the Puerto Rico recovery and relief. We're aware of that, and we're watching to see if that will continue. We know it will to some degree over the upcoming months, but right out of the gate, tote and trailer bridge saw very strong volumes above budget. It was all IRMA related, something we certainly couldn't anticipate in the budget process, but that's helped our cargo volumes. But we'll also point out in the container TEUs, Asia only is also up year over year, about 16% growth in TEUs year over year. So both reflecting heavy growth, reflecting nice growth in the first part of the year. Looking at autos, Julio, autos, let's flash back to containers real quick. I got one comment on containers I wanted to talk about. Yeah, containers, notice that the dollar growth is up 11%, whereas TEUs are up 9%. We have a MAG with Crowley, which we have a $4 million minimum annual guarantee. They're not on track with their budget or their MAG at this juncture, so we've accrued about $375,000 of a minimum annual guarantee. We're hoping that their volumes will trump that as we get into the back half of the year and the LNG vessels are fully online. So we'll be watching that, but that is reason why the dollars are a little bit ahead of the TEUs for the first 6 months. I want to make that point as well. Okay, move on to autos, if you would, Julio. Autos, a strong year, 2% growth in revenue and in units. Not as strong as last year, as we had 693,000 units, a very strong year last year, record year, but nonetheless a real healthy first 6 months. We'll be tracking to see if these trends continue with rising interest rates and whatnot. But and those units are kind of across the board. VW down a little bit from budget expectations, but Toyota is exceeding their budget, and we're seeing healthy POV volumes as well, but privately owned vehicles. Moving on to the expense side of the ledger, we're noting that salaries and benefits are under budget 5%. Services and supplies up. That is driven by the fuel, the diesel volume, as we have seen cargoes above budget, and the fuel follows suit. But the big line item we're looking at is dredging. Dredging is tracking about $211,000 for the first 6 months. We have a budget of $152,000. So Irma has really hit us hard with the dredging. So we're expecting from our engineering folks, they've given us a forecast, and it's pretty realistic that we're going to be north of 300,000, which is going to be 300,000 cubic yards, which is going to double our budget expectations. So we're going to have a budget bust of around $2.5 million we would expect by the end of the year in dredging. So as you see, otherwise expense controls are keeping things under the $2 million range, trying to offset some of the budget overage. Julio, if you move to the next slide, just looking at the entire income statement, top to bottom, we talked about revenues highlighted in pink there. Operating expenses, it should be noted, just a real quick glance at salaries and benefits, we're actually under last year in total, so those savings that we see on the budget slides are actually real savings, certainly. We find ourselves almost at full employment here. We have a couple of empty billets, but nonetheless, we see some savings there in salaries and benefits. So as we look at total expenses, we have, as we mentioned, the dredging is going to create a challenge of some degree. Non-operating items, we do see savings in the here in debt service. That's going to help offset the overages in dredging. So simply put, when we submit our budget to City Council, we're approved to appropriations of a certain level. Those appropriations essentially translate to expenditures, which are made up of operating expenses, debt service, and our pay-go. So we're hoping by the end of the year, through expense side management, keeping an eye on dredging, some savings in debt service, and then maybe deferring a couple of pay-go projects. We've already talked to engineering about that, maybe to the tune of $600,000. We'll find ourselves not busting our appropriations for the year. So we hope that will we can manage to that as we come into the back half of the year. One final comment: if you look at your balance sheet, you can see the cash balances are a little less than we target, but that's temporary. We have about $14.5 million in operating cash. We expect that to be helped by, again, strong revenues, and we should be landing at the $16 million range, which is our target as set by the rating agencies. That's a quick overview. I tried to be brief. Any questions? Mr. Falconetti, any thoughts from the Treasurer review?
No, sir. Wonderful presentation. Thank you. Yeah, it's good.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, and, I know it won't help this year, but didn't we put in for a FEMA assistance for that dredging, didn't we?
We did. We're working on that, and
I know that's probably 2 years from now, but hopefully.
exactly. So we are working aggressively with our FEMA partners, and we just a little bit soft in terms of the expectations. So we'll track that to the rest of the year. That would certainly help our numbers.
Yeah.
Mr. Baker?
Mike, could you explain why there is such a variance in budget on the dredging?
Well, remember the budget process starts April timeframe, and we did trending, 3 to 5 year trends is what we typically look at to see what the dredging budget might look like. So engineering looks at that, and we had some pretty quiet years for the past 5 years. Irma is the story, plain and simple, and it's up and down the river. There's the BAEs of the world, the Marathon, and even, as I understand, Mayport has had heavy maintenance dredging, and we've just been slammed with that. Will that subside? We'll just have to watch it. But the engineering folks, use the trend data, which has typically served us well. So it's just a very strange year. It's hard to predict hurricanes.
Mr. Chairman, question.
Yes.
Mike, great job. Really great presentation there. And the numbers, I appreciate you giving us an idea of the forecast, where we should land. We've gone through the expense variations last time we met. And I remember dredging, I remember the salaries and benefits. One question I have, and maybe I just forgot, why are we on the debt service line, which not on the operating, why are we paying less this year than we paid last year? I mean, is that part of the schedule down? Because we budgeted a different amount, so
We do.
just help me remember that.
We have 2 things that are helping us with our debt service. One is we typically are aggressive in loading our line of credit because we don't know what the expectations of the funding might entail. So we fully load our line of credit. Our line of credit currently at $21 million, up to $50 million. So we leave ourselves some latitude for tapping the line of credit for unforeseen events. So that helps us significantly, because we've been able to keep the line of credit same as it was at the end of last fiscal year. We also have a note where on the Corps of Engineers, we kept waiting for the amortization on. That's another $400,000 that we set aside that we still await their amortization schedule, and we'll talk about that again next year. That's from the previous dredging to 40 feet. So some of that is prudent management of our debt. And we did have a refunding earlier in the year, but that saves some interest costs. But the big story is what I just described. So that's something we'll see the rest of the year. Again, that's going to help us with our total appropriations by the end of the year. And we'll probably fully load our line of credit again next year, just because when we present the budget we explain why we kind of do that, because we're not sure our funding will come through. So the line of credit serves as a bridge for anything that might be in transition. Did you get that? Did that make sense, Jamie?
Absolutely not. We'll talk offline.
Okay. So anyway, so some of that savings is.
I don't want to put it on to me. We can go through the detail later, but thank you.
Yeah.
No other questions? Okay. Thank you, Mike. You did a good job. Appreciate it.
Good job.
Okay, James Bennett, give us a construction engineering update.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chair, members of the board. Good news with our construction projects. We continue to make great progress as we move through the ones that we're going to present here today. We've made good progress on several of these. The first one I want to talk about, I'll get out of the way of the screen. So I'm not. The first one I want to speak about is the berth 7 and 8 here at Talleyrand Marine Terminal. This is where we're installing sheet pile walls to replace the existing ones. We continue to make progress on that. We have now completed, we have 3 phases of the project. Phase 1 was the center portion, which was committed to in order to be prepared for when Crowley's LNG ships was coming. That is completely done. We have now moved further to the south and making great progress there. We have different portions of that being completed, but so far the project is on schedule and within the budget. We're in that phase 2 portion. Again, the first part was the center portion, the phase 1. It has been completed. Phase 2, we are actively working on the southern portion of that, and we expect to have that portion finished up around early June and start to the very northern end, which is phase 3, to finish the project up. Once we get through phase 2, we'll be able to turn those berths back over and have them go back into production as well. But the phase 2 continues. We've got several different activities going on. Everything from the sheet pile placement being done in a section of it to deck placement being done, as well as finally all the way up through the placement of asphalt on that top right slide. So again, different phases of that, because as the contractor does his work, he's doing it in pieces. Driving sheet pile wall, building the deck back in, putting it back in place, and then putting the asphalt back on top. So again, working well through that project. The second project is the Amports project over on Blunt Island Marine Terminal. This is replacing a very large roof where we actually put a roof over it. That project has actually finished. I mentioned to you that we anticipated it to be finishing. It was scheduled for June. We finished ahead of time in March, so that project is completed. You will not see this one after today. Okay?
Congratulations.
And finally, the third major project is the resurfacing, reconstruction, and placement of new asphalt pavement out at the cruise terminal. This project is being done such that we can relocate the current cruise parking to the new location over to the north end of the property. We've continued to keep the project on track. We've had quite a bit of progress made recently. We continue to have the storm drains put in place. Earthwork is being brought in, as well as getting ready to bring in the sub-base for it as well. But the project is tracking well. You can see there's a lot of dirt getting moved, a lot of getting pushed around, a lot of pipes going into the ground as well. Underground utilities, such as the conduits for all of your fiber optic and communications and so forth, is going in place as well. So again,
Hey, James,
a lot
can
of progress
you
here.
switch back to that last slide and show them where that riprap's going?
I
'Cause
can.
Dave didn't have that.
And I don't think this will show on the screen, but there's 2 locations here of Winds Creek, where Winds Creek comes in close to the area here, as well as where it sweeps through here. These are both the 2 locations where we're having to put the rubble riprap. It starts up at the top of the bank and goes all the way down into the creek, and the whole purpose is so where that creek turns and it's eroding the ground, washing, taking away the soil. This will now stabilize that, and we'll no longer lose any more material. We've had 2 significant events, Hurricane Matthew last year and then Hurricane Irma, have continued to create a lot of additional erosions through the area, so we're trying to get that in place. As of about 2 weeks ago, we have the permit from the Department of Environmental Protection, the permit from the Army Corps of Engineers. We have the submerged lease now, so we are now ready to issue a notice to proceed for that work. As part of our original contract for this project, we made the contractor aware that he could not start work on that until June 1st, so we'll issue him the notice to proceed in advance of that. So we're tracking a little bit ahead of schedule for that. Okay? And that's the 2 main projects I wanted to talk to you today about, and I'm glad to take any questions.
Any questions? All right. Thank you, James. Good report, as usual. Thank you. Okay, the CEO report and the business development report are in your board books. We're not going to have a presentation today, but if anybody has any questions, you could shoot them at either Eric or Roy. I read it. It's all pretty good news.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, before we go on to other business, can I make an introduction of our 2?
Sure, I think it's a great idea.
To the team. Well, all of you know Beth, and with Mr. Poole leaving and joining Port Canaveral, which I think is a good story, both for Mike and Canaveral, it speaks to the fact that we have really, really good talent here at JAXPORT, and people are eyeing our talent. We were able to add Beth McCaig. Beth came to the team at the beginning of the year, this year, and she's been working on special projects in the finance department. It was actually sort of an easy sell. I think Beth came in and she's been enjoying the work that she's been doing with the team. Prior to joining JAXPORT, Beth managed a $1.6 billion the Jacksonville Police and Fire Pension Fund, and she helped to stabilize that through some tough times that they were going through a couple of years ago. Beth currently is on the board of Ameris Bank Corp. And several community boards that she participated in, and just wanted to welcome Beth to the team.
Welcome, Beth.
Our second addition is a young man by the name, Justin, you want to stand? Justin Damiano. Justin come to the team to head up Government Affairs Department. Justin is my replacement from my previous stint here in the organization. Justin come as the manager, former manager of Government Affairs and Community Investment for Comcast NBC. He was located in Fort Myers. Justin has a wealth of knowledge in the regulatory industry. He hit the ground running very fast. I think Justin was in D.C. his second day on the job working. So we've enjoyed Justin's short period, and he's a quick study. Also, Justin is a UNF grad and formerly a Marine Corps vet. So thank you for your service, Justin. So I welcome Justin to the team.
Yeah, great.
That's all I have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, if we have no other questions for the team, at this point, I'll ask for a motion to approve travel for any members of the board called upon to do business or attend meetings on behalf of the port for the months of May and June. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to join here in just a minute, but if any of you that can, please stay for a few minutes after the meeting. Our CEO, Eric Green, will sign the historic agreement with Carnival, and we'd like you all to witness that. And if there's no other business, then I will call the meeting adjourned. Thank you.